There is something in you that has never been upset, not suppressed, not spiritually bypassed, not the numbness of someone who has learned not to feel. Something genuinely undisturbed that has watched every crisis, every failure, every moment of grief and rage and confusion pass through without itself being altered by any of it. You've touched it, in the sudden stillness between two thoughts, in the moment after a wave of emotion peaks and before the next one builds, in the inexplicable calm that sometimes arrives inside genuinely difficult circumstances, the kind that has nothing to do with having resolved anything and everything to do with something underneath the situation that isn't touched by it. Most people notice this and move on, file it as a fluke, return to the narrative of their difficulty, and forget that for one moment, something was present that was not difficult at all. But that something is not a fluke. It is not a mood or a coping mechanism or a spiritual experience reserved for advanced practitioners. It is the most fundamental thing about you. So constant, so close, so thoroughly present in every moment of your life that the mind consistently overlooks it the way the eye overlooks its own blind spot. It has a name in every tradition that has ever pointed toward it. The witness, the observer, pure awareness, the self with a capital S. And understanding what it actually is, not as a concept, but as a direct recognition, changes everything. Part 1 is what the observer is not. Before pointing at what the observer is, it's worth clearing the most common confusions, because the mind, in its attempt to grasp what the observer is, almost always reaches for the wrong thing. The observer is not the inner critic, the voice that watches your behavior and evaluates it, that comments on your performance, judges your responses, keeps a running assessment of how you're doing. That voice is itself an object. It appears in awareness. It is watched. It is not the watcher. The observer is not detachment. There is a psychological state, often mistaken for spiritual development, where emotional distance is maintained by suppressing genuine feeling. The defended person who watches their life from behind glass, uninvolved and unreachable, is not abiding in the observer. They are using dissociation to manage what they cannot face. The observer is not behind glass. It is more intimate with experience than any other aspect of the self. It simply is not altered by experience the way the conditioned self is. The observer is not a spiritual achievement. It is not something you develop through sufficient practice, accumulate through enough meditation, or access only after clearing enough psychological debris. It is prior to practice, prior to development, prior to the entire project of self-improvement. It is what was already here before any of that began, and what will be here after all of it completes. And the observer is not the ego watching itself. The ego can learn to perform observation, to narrate its own process, to maintain a self-conscious awareness of its own behavior. This metacognitive capacity is useful, but it is not the observer. It is the ego wearing the observer's clothing. The real observer has no investment in what it sees. It does not prefer one experience over another. It does not need the meditation to go well or the insight to arrive. It is equally present in the worst moment and the best, because it is not having either experience. It is the space in which both appear. Part 2, what it actually is. The observer is the awareness that is present before thought, not the thought that says I am aware, not the concept of awareness, not the memory of a moment when awareness was particularly vivid. The bare, immediate, already present fact of there being an experience at all, prior to any content, any interpretation, any sense of a self having the experience. Here is the most direct way to approach it. Right now, there are thoughts present, there are sensations in the body, there may be sounds in the environment, emotions moving, a general quality of mood or energy. All of that is content, the changing display of experience. Now ask, what is aware of all of that? Not who is aware. That question immediately generates a conceptual answer, a name, a story, an identity. Just what is the awareness in which all of this is appearing? You cannot find it as an object. You cannot locate it in space, hold it in attention, or describe its qualities the way you would describe a thought or a sensation. Every attempt to observe it produces only more content, more thoughts, more sensations, more objects in awareness. But notice that the absence of it as an object does not mean it is absent. It means it is the subject, the one doing the looking, not the thing being looked at. And the one doing the looking is not separate from the looking itself. It is the pure activity of awareness. Not a thing that is aware, but awareness itself, prior to the division into subject and object. This is the observer, not an entity, not a homunculus watching from behind the eyes. The sheer, immediate, boundless fact of consciousness being present, which has been the single constant throughout your entire life, while literally everything else changed. Part 3, why it changes everything. The recognition of the observer does not immediately resolve all problems. The conditioning continues. The patterns still run. The emotions still move with all their force and texture. But something has shifted in the relationship to all of it. Before the recognition, every experience is total. Fear doesn't just arise. You are the fear. Anger doesn't just appear. You are the anger. The thought that says, I am broken, or I am worthless, or this will never change lands with the full weight of truth, because the sense of self and the thought have not yet been distinguished from each other. After recognition, even partial, even unstable recognition, there is a distance, not the cold distance of dissociation, but the natural distance of perspective. The fear arises in awareness. The anger appears within the space. The thought moves through the field, and the field does not become the thought. This is the shift that the traditions describe as liberation. Not the absence of difficulty, but the discovery that what you are is not touched by difficulty in the way the conditioned self is. That there is a ground beneath the turbulence that the turbulence cannot destabilize. That the waves, however large, are not the ocean. And from that ground, from the stability of the observer, rather than the reactivity of the conditioned self, a different quality of response becomes available. Not the automatic reaction driven by pattern and fear, the genuine response arising from a clarity that only becomes possible when you are not completely identified with what is moving through you. Part 4, and how to recognize it directly. The observer cannot be found by searching for it. Every search is a movement away from it, because the searcher and the searched for are the same thing, and the act of searching implies a distance that doesn't exist. It is recognized by stopping, not by achieving a particular state of stillness, but by noticing what is already present before any state is achieved. In the middle of an ordinary moment, not in a special meditation, not in a peak experience, but in the specific ordinariness of right now, simply notice that you are aware. Not that you are thinking about awareness. That awareness is here, right now, without effort, without requiring anything to be different. Now notice that this awareness is not troubled by whatever is present in the moment. Thoughts are present. Awareness is not the thoughts. Sensations are present. Awareness is not the sensations. Even if anxiety is present, even if restlessness or boredom or confusion is present, the awareness holding all of it is none of those things. It is simply present, open, untroubled. That is the observer, not found, recognized. The way you recognize a face you have always known but haven't consciously looked at for years. The practice, if there is one, is simply this: returning to that recognition, again and again. Not to achieve a permanent state, but to make the recognition increasingly available as the default rather than the exception, until the stability of the observer becomes the ground from which ordinary life is lived, rather than a territory occasionally visited in favorable conditions. You have been looking for something that has been looking through you since the beginning, the peace you've been trying to build through circumstances, through relationships, through the achievement of sufficient self-improvement. That peace is not downstream of anything. It is the nature of the awareness that is already present, prior to every effort to create it. The observer is not a reward. It is not a destination. It is not what you become after enough work. It is what you already are when you stop insisting on being everything that moves through you. Every thought passes, every emotion completes, every circumstance changes, every version of the self that has ever defined you has arisen and dissolved. The awareness in which all of that occurred has not moved, has never moved, was never born into any of it, and will not end when the last of it finally dissolves. That is what you are. It has always been what you are. The only question that remains is how long you are willing to keep looking for it somewhere else. If this pointed at something you have touched but never been able to name, share it. Someone in your life is searching everywhere for the thing that is doing the searching. This might be the thing that finally turns their attention in the right direction. See you in the next one.